This is a 2022 Hyundai Creta. The Creta is one of Hyundai's newer entries to the small crossover segment, and it is now officially in the Philippine market. And so in this video, we're going to take a look at the ins and the outs of the Hyundai Creta to see what all the fuss is about. And then we're going to go on a quick drive to see what it's like. Let's go. So let's start up front. So for context, the Creta sits below the Tucson but above the Venue in the market lineup. And so I guess you could call it a little brother to the Tucson. And Hyundai made sure to make that clear. And so what you see here kind of resembles what you see on the Tucson. So you have what Hyundai calls the parametric dual design grille. So basically that's one whole grille piece over here with your daytime running lights, which are LED by the way, nicely integrated. And then you have the silver accent that goes along the DRLs and along the bumper, which is quite prominent in today's vehicle design. And you have a healthy amount of ventilation over here for your engine and whatnot. And so here you have what my friends like to call bottom headlights. So I guess there's a lot of companies doing that now, and I'm not allowed to mention their names, but it's pretty common. So you have here two LED headlights, one for low beam and one for high beam, and you have your turn signal lights, which are unfortunately not LED, but that's a non-issue really. The one downside though is that this car does not come with fog lights or auxiliary lights as some people call them, but with headlights seated this low, I don't think that's an issue. Moving on to the side, the first thing you'll notice are these thick black plastic claddings, which scream, "Oh, I'm an SUV, so rugged, so capable," kind of thing. And it kind of wraps around the car in a way that's a little bit discreet, but it also kind of sticks out in the way that it's kind of like it wants to tell you that it's an SUV in spite of its small size. Now, being an SUV, it sits on 17-inch alloy wheels, which Hyundai calls their diamond cut design. Now these diamond cut alloy wheels are only available on the GLS model, which is what this is. Now these alloy wheels are wrapped around in 215/60 series tires, which I think is a pretty healthy tire profile for a small SUV like this. Now moving up here, we have the black A-pillar, which with its black color kind of gives you the illusion that the windshield wraps around the whole car. This is continuous with the black side mirrors, which I must say is very European in shape, and the black roof, which is common in pretty much every kind of car nowadays. Looking at it directly from the side, you'll notice these kind of lines, curves that echo the shape of the car. And you see these up top and down below. And you'll see, looking at the bottom, that it sits pretty high off the ground. That's 200 millimeters of ground clearance. And up front, you have McPherson front struts and a torsion beam rear suspension to give the car this kind of stance. And here at the back, you'll notice the split taillight design, which kind of needs some getting used to, if I'm honest. But these taillights look a lot better when they're switched on. And so these taillights are LED strip. You have an LED strip right here, and a little piece of LED light right here, and another LED strip at the bottom. The brake lights, which are found in here, are LED as well, but the signal lights, like those up front, are not LED. Your reverse lights, one on each side, are here at the bottom, which gives a very good visibility when you're using the rear camera, which can be found right here at the bottom, very discreetly hidden away under the letters that boldly proclaim the name of the car, Creta. It's like, what car is this? Oh, it's a Hyundai Creta. Very proud and very loud. I like it like that. And here you have this kind of fake ventilation, which kind of complements the real ventilation that you find on the front bumper. This also comes with rear parking sensors, which you can find discreetly hidden on the black part of the bumper. Now let's move on to the inside. If you're anything like me, who grew up with quite a number of Hyundai cars in their household through the years, the first thing you'll probably notice is that the interior is no longer all black. That's right, Hyundai decided to deviate from what they used to do a lot in the Philippine market by giving it a colored interior. In this case, black and brown, which, as my friend called it, is very James Mae spec. But with this piano black center console, I think it complements the brown very well. And so here on the door cards, you have the same brown lining over here with your silver door handle. The cubbyhole in the door panel is quite big. It fits my hand, well, almost. And there is, however, a little leatherette wrapped portion over here on the armrest, but that's the only bit of leatherette on the door panels. Moving on to the cockpit, you will see this brown hard plastic visor that covers your 10-inch supervision display, which is what Hyundai calls its digital instrument cluster. And the steering wheel as well, you will notice that they're using the same steering wheel design as their other cars like the Tucson and the Staria. Down here you have your engine start-stop button, which is very nicely placed, and you have your traction control off button on here on the left. Moving on to the middle, as I mentioned earlier, you have your center console over here, which houses your 8-inch touchscreen. This 8-inch touchscreen, by the way, supports wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, as well as Bluetooth and USB playback, and of course, FM and AM radio. I mean, what sound system doesn't do FM and AM radio, right? And down here you have your automatic climate control, which is, I think, very minimalistic. And you have your temperature display over here, which is very nicely integrated into the center console. And at the bottom over here, you have two USB ports, one for your USB playback and another one for USB charging. All you need is a USB cable to plug in, and it charges your phone. And between the two of these is a cigarette lighter socket without a cigarette lighter, to comply with health and safety in the modern day, wherein you can plug in any device that's up to 180 watts. And here is your wireless charging pad, which is, honestly, I'm surprised wireless charging isn't standard on every car nowadays, but it is standard on the Hyundai Creta, which is a very nice touch. And here you have two cup holders, one in front and one at the back. The one in front isn't exactly very functional. It doesn't really hold my water bottle effectively, but at least the one in the back does. And then over here you have your drive mode selections. It's a little wheel that you turn to the left or to the right to cycle through drive modes, and if you press this button over here, it allows you to cycle through traction control modes like snow, mud, and sand. Snow in the Philippines. I don't think we're going to be using that for obvious reasons, but it's good to know that you can drive in snow if it ever suddenly magically snows in the Philippines. And so back here you have your storage space, which is not quite big, but it gets the job done. On the passenger seat, however, you have this glove compartment that supports cooling. You could put your drinks in there, and there's a little vent that goes from the AC into your glove compartment so that it cools your drinks using the AC. And these seats, by the way, are completely leather all around, front and rear. And this is standard for the Creta GLS as well as the Creta GL. You've got map lights up front and a dome light at the back. And you also have vanity mirrors on both sides, although they do not have lights. Moving on to the back, you see that it's very spacious. There is literally a lot of space in here. Now, I'm 5'7", well 5'8" on a good day, and there is a lot of leg room over here. It's literally more than one span of my hand. And this seat is adjusted for my driving position, so if my driver is the same height as me, someone the same height as me at the back would be very comfortable. Or even if you were taller than me, you'd be very comfortable. That's a lot of leg room and that's a lot of headroom. And I think the default position for this rear seat, which is not adjustable by the way, is quite the right amount of recline, which is very good for comfy rides through town. But admittedly, there's not a lot for rear passengers to play around with. The door panel has the same standard cubbyhole on here on top and at the bottom, although the one at the bottom isn't exactly as big as the one up front, but it can still hold bottles, and there's also the same sign that says no cups. There is a pocket here behind the front seat, And there are two AC vents down here at the back of the center console. There's also a USB charging port here for your phone and a little pocket for your phone to slot into while it's charging. Now, back here in the middle, we have this center armrest with two cup holders. Let me just grab my water bottle real quick and see if it fits. It fits in there, and it also fits in there. Perfect. So both of these cup holders are fully functional. Not like the one in front where it's only the one at the back, but for smaller bottles or smaller cups, the one in the frontmost actually does work. And you have grab handles on all passenger seats, but the driver's seat does not have a grab handle. But I don't think that's an issue, really. And so you have these standard seat belts for your left and right rear passengers, while the middle passenger gets a lap belt. Now let's move on to the back. The Creta has a very respectable 433 liters of cargo space up here. That's about 4 to 5 full-size suitcases. And if you put the seats down like so, you can get pretty much double the space. So if you plan to take this car outdoors to the beach or camping or anything you can think of, you can fit all of your luggage, all of your things in here. And that's where the utility side of this sport utility vehicle comes in. And below this little floorboard right here, if you lift this up, you have a full-size spare tire with the same 215/60 series tires as you see on all four corners of the car. This is, however, a steel rim, but that's not a problem because, well, it's just a spare tire after all. And if you close this up, you can see that you have a light over here on the left and a grocery hook on the right. That's pretty much it for the back. Now let's head back up front. Now here up front, under the hood, is where all the magic happens. In the engine bay sits a 1.5-liter naturally aspirated gasoline engine which Hyundai calls SmartStream, a very modern name for a very modern engine. It's got dual overhead cams and dual constantly variable valve timing to maximize both power and efficiency. This engine is mated to either a 6-speed manual gearbox or an IVT, which stands for Intelligent Variable Transmission, which is basically Hyundai's term for a chain-driven CVT. Now, this GLS model only gets the IVT, but if you get the GL model, you can get either a 6-speed manual or an IVT, depending on your choice. So, with that out of the way, let's take this for a drive. Driving the Hyundai Creta in tight, narrow parking garages like this in the middle of the city is a very easy task. Unlike other traditional SUVs, it's very easy to maneuver, and thanks to its electronic power steering, it's very easy to turn the wheel with just your small finger. Amazing! And so let's navigate through this parking garage and out. Thank you. Alright. Oh, a little bit of tire squeal over there. Pretty healthy. And so on the highway, acceleration is pretty good. I noticed the steering gets a little bit heavier as you put on some speed, which is very good for safety. You don't want your steering wheel to be all over the place when you're traveling at a high speed. I think that's a pretty safe thing for Hyundai to do. Now let's switch lanes. All good. If there had been another car or motorcycle in our blind spots, the blind spot monitoring system, oh, like that one. There you go. Blind spot monitoring system would have alerted me to it already. It also has lane keep assist, lane departure warning, which means if I veer a little bit off my lane, oh, it pushes me back and it beeps to alert me of my mistake. The road vibration isn't very perceptible on the steering wheel thanks to its very nice electronic power steering system, which is very good for cars like this. Handling is pretty good, steering is pretty sharp. Like, I'm gonna make this quick lane change with abrupt input and see what it's like. Very good. Not much turbulence, not much body roll, which is quite unexpected for an SUV, but then again, this is a crossover, which means it's practically just a tall hatchback. which is perfect for the city if you ask me. So cruising, right now we're cruising at about 70 kilometers per hour. You don't really hear anything. Very quiet ride. You could hear a pin drop. Perfect. And with regards to braking, the brakes are very responsive, as you can see from this clip, which I'm going to insert here. And that was a panic braking scenario, which is pretty common for driving in the city. You know, traffic does get crazy in Cebu. So, driving the Hyundai Creta on a highway, the throttle response is actually pretty good. Well, on normal mode, there's a little bit of delay before power gets on from the time you step on the gas and the time that it, you know, shoots forward. A little more so in eco mode. But if you're feeling a little bit aggressive, you can always try sport mode, which is... There you go. You turn the knob right here, and you're on sport mode. The instrument cluster turns red, and throttle response is sharpened up. And even though this has a CVT, well, IVT as what Hyundai calls it, it kind of feels like a regular automatic transmission. Very responsive. No rubber band effect whatsoever. And yeah, you wouldn't even know this car had a CVT if I didn't tell you. In driving, safety is always something that we'd like to prioritize. And so for safety, this car has quite a lengthy list of standard safety features. That includes dual airbags, anti-lock brakes, electronic stability control, traction control, hill start assist, and a host of other active safety features that Hyundai calls Smart Sense. So Hyundai Smart Sense includes blind spot collision avoidance, lane keeping assist, forward collision avoidance, and blind spot monitoring system. Other safety features include high beam assist, which basically dims your headlights automatically if you forget to disengage your high beam so you don't glare other drivers on the road. It also has driver attention warning in case it senses that you're a bit drowsy or distracted or fooling around driving with no hands. Please don't do that. And it also has tire pressure monitoring system, speed limit assist, parking distance warning in reverse. And in this 8-inch touchscreen, there's also a camera feed from the rear, which I mentioned during the exterior walk around. And right now we seem to be in heavy traffic, so let's enable our auto hold, which is basically just pressing this button, stepping on the brakes for 1 second, and letting go. And so now the car is not rolling back or forward. It's basically holding the brakes so that we stay in place the whole time. And once traffic begins to move forward, all you have to do is step on the gas a little bit and it disengages the brakes. Smart. It's a lot more convenient than having to engage and disengage the handbrake for every stop that you make. It's a pretty good addition if you ask me, considering that this is an SUV for the city. And in the city, you have pretty heavy traffic. And in Cebu, that's pretty much all the time. So the engine, which is quite relatively quiet at low RPMs, begins to shout a little bit once you get past 3,000 RPM, which I don't think is that much of an issue. I mean, you don't go past 3,000 RPM all the time, but at least it's good to know that you have the power when you need it, and it has the sounds to match. Now take note, this is a naturally aspirated 1.5 liter gasoline engine, which Hyundai calls SmartStream. It makes 115 horsepower at 6,300 RPM and 143.8 Newton meters of torque at a little over 4,000 RPM, which is a pretty healthy figure for a 1.5 liter gasoline engine. Once again, we are in heavy traffic, as we always are in Cebu. Oh, it's telling me that the leading vehicle is driving away. Yeah, that's one of the driver attention warnings, which I think is very good for, well, if you're distracted while driving, please do not be distracted while driving. But if you do find yourself driving distracted, then I think it's a pretty good touch of safety, you know? Kind of helps you to be more conscious of the road. and honestly makes me feel a bit guilty why I wasn't paying attention, but I was asked to make this review, so this guy has not been checking. These guys have not been checking their blind spots. If they had blind spot warning system, they would have noticed that I was there right next to them, which this car has. Now, the horn, as you have just heard, is not exactly very characteristic of an SUV. Some people might find it okay, some people might find it a little cute, to be honest, but I think, pwede na. I mean, this is a car for the city after all. You don't need very loud horns in the city, so unless I run into drivers like that all the time, then that calls for an air horn, probably. But other than that, I think it's fine. And here we have a pretty steep uphill section, which is very commonly asked about in car reviews and forums and Facebook groups. Can this car climb Baguio? Or in Cebu, can this car climb Balamban? Well, I'm climbing Guadalupe in Cebu right now, and it's not really struggling. I'm at 2,000 RPM, running at 35 to 40, well now we're doing 40 kilometers an hour. And we're doing this in eco mode. If this car can do this in eco mode, I'm pretty sure it can handle Baguio with no problems at all. Or Balamban if you're in Cebu. Now let's talk about pricing. The Hyundai Creta starts at 1,048,000 pesos for the base model GL 6-speed manual variant. Next in line would be the GL IVT model, which is priced at 1,220,000 pesos. The top of the line model, which is what we have here, the GLS IVT, is priced at 1,382,000 pesos. Now, these are the prices at the time of this review. Do note that prices are subject to change without prior notice. Hyundai Cebu has low down payment promos as well to help you or anyone you know buy their dream Hyundai. If you're interested, feel free to head to any of the Hyundai Cebu showrooms, and don't forget to let them know that you watched my review. With all these considered, here are my final thoughts. The Hyundai Creta is a decent subcompact crossover loaded with safety features and technology, a spacious interior with a lot of legroom, headroom, and baggage space, as well as a quiet and comfortable ride. It also has a high ground clearance and large 17-inch wheels, which are particularly helpful in driving through Cebu's rough and flood-prone roads. As for driving, the steering is light and the car is surprisingly responsive despite being powered by a naturally aspirated 1.5-liter engine mated to a CVT transmission, although engine noise does begin to seep into the cabin at higher RPMs. The pricing is a little bit on the higher end, but with features and amenities like remote start, automatic LED headlights, multi-color leather seats, wireless phone charging, all of the Hyundai SmartSense driving aids, and a lot more, the Creta is still a considerably well-equipped offering in its segment. The exterior design, though, may need some getting used to, but that's just a minor nitpick in what is otherwise a great car. All in all, the Hyundai Creta GLS IVT is a welcome addition to the new Hyundai Philippines lineup. Seeing the collective success of small crossovers in both the global and local markets, I'm sure we will be seeing more of the Creta on Philippine roads very soon. Before I wrap up this video, I just want to take this moment to thank Hyundai Cebu for giving me this opportunity to try out the Hyundai Creta for myself and experience it firsthand. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and it would mean so much to me if you could share this video on your social media accounts. This has been Jericho Villafuerte, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.